Today's guest is Allie Cass. She's a former bodybuilding pro turned functional health and fitness coach who helps stressed out women optimize their metabolism, uplevel their mindset, and shift from surviving to thriving. She's an advocate for self love, becoming your best self through mind body health, and living a life fully alive. I can't wait for you to hear all of the wisdom Allie shares with us on today's episode. I've got a question for you. Who's the person you're being? Are you satisfied? It's okay. This is a judge-free zone, and it's exactly why I started the show. Welcome to Be the Person, a podcast for the brave and the curious who are ready to explore who they are fully created to be. I'm your host, Randall, the adventurous one leading this investigative journey of transformation. By delving into topics and asking unexpected questions, we will discover the keys for unlocking our true potential and being our best selves today. You may be surprised by what you find when you let go of fear in order to discover the answers of becoming the person you were made to be. Welcome to Be the Person podcast. I'm super excited to have Allie Cass with us today. She is a functional health and fitness coach, and she has such an amazing story and just so much knowledge to share with us. Welcome to the podcast, Allie.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah. Well, let's just jump in and tell us a little about you, what you do now, and then how you got where you are today.
Yeah, absolutely. So my name is Allie Cass. I'm a functional health and fitness coach, and I help women to uplevel their mindset, master their metabolism, and shift from surviving to thriving. So really what that means is I help women kind of bridge the gap between addressing internal health and achieving the aesthetic goals or the performance goals outwardly that they desire to achieve, and hopefully improving their entire life in the process, because that's really what it's about, right? Like health and fitness is really just an avenue to becoming more of the person that you want to be and to living a life that you want to live. I've been in the industry for about 8 years almost at this point. And like most people, I started out on my own journey. I was an athlete growing up, so I have always engaged in physical fitness and sports, but no one ever taught me about nutrition. No one ever taught me about how to manage my stress. No one ever taught me how to really care for myself, like so many women that I work with and like you probably see as well. So fast forward, I went to college. I was a collegiate basketball player, decided it was no longer for me. So I quit and developed some pretty unhealthy habits in the process. So I'm from Texas and I like to joke that margaritas and Mexican food are like their own food group. And so, I was just engaging in rather unhealthy dietary habits, doing the whole college lifestyle. When I was 21 years old, I had just graduated and I found out that my mom had stage 3 brain cancer. So I moved across the country to Phoenix, Arizona to become her caregiver along with my father. Unfortunately, she only made it 9 months and then passed away. And in that process, I got to really witness some of the downfalls of the Western medical system. No one talked to us about nutrition. No one talked to us about lifestyle factors. No one really looked at her condition in a holistic way. And it really was a coping mechanism for me at first. I just started doing all of this self research and just trying to answer the question of why someone would get a diagnosis like that, especially when they're otherwise seemingly healthy, at least by our Western standards. And the more I started to learn about nutrition, the impact of stress, the impact of environmental toxins, and just really what it means to truly be a healthy individual, not just physically, but mentally and emotionally, I just became very angry at the system. And I was like, nobody's talking about this. Why did we not have a dietitian or why did we not have a physician, talking to us about other things that we could be doing to perhaps either, help her diagnosis or even just help give her a better quality of life while she was here. And in that process, it really just fueled a passion for me. And I was like, I need to learn as much about this as possible because I need to make some kind of purpose or find some kind of meaning out of the pain that I went through and that she went through throughout that entire situation. Simultaneously, I was also not in the best place myself when it came to my own physical health. I was only 22 and I was like, I remember having a moment where I'm like, is this what I'm going to feel like for the rest of my life? Because if so, like, I'm not okay with that. And I realized that, I was too young to feel that way first off. And now I know that everybody is too young to feel that way because you can feel healthy and vibrant in any phase of life. And so I hired a fitness coach and she transformed my entire life. She talked me into doing bodybuilding, which I thought was a terrible idea at the time. But I thought, you know what? I'm not really working toward anything at the moment. I really would love a goal to just focus on and work toward. And I competed for about a year and a half and got my pro card. Through that process, I realized that, and I was very lucky, I will say, my coach was very holistic in nature. She was all about health first. So I had a very positive experience. And through that process, I realized there are so many wonderful changes that you can make. And it's not always like rocket science, but we're just not talking about, how women can achieve these things in a healthy way. So I became very passionate. I started going, after my personal training certification, my nutrition coaching certification. Long story short, I ended up becoming her assistant coach. And then she decided to make a career pivot and I bought her business. And I have since rebranded and shifted my focus a little bit out of the aesthetics and more into the really helping women at a deeper level when it comes to their metabolism, their hormones, and their gut health.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's such a journey. I knew I was going to love this topic. Really, I'm excited now because honestly, I've been on a similar path. I'm like, why is no one talking about all of these things out there? And they're talking about one thing, like maybe calories, but they're not putting it all together on how we can really be overall healthy. So I'm super excited to just dive in now.
Yes. Yeah. I love that.
Yeah. What was some of the biggest changes? Because I know you said you bought her business, but then you took it a little bit in a different direction. Tell me about that in the direction that you went.
Absolutely. So where the business was focused when I was a client and then, until the point that I purchased it and decided to pivot was very focused on health, but very much from an aesthetics perspective. So I started to notice that, women would come to me and they would want to look better in a bikini, which is great. I love that. Like, let's focus on that. But in the process, I started to notice that a lot of the women that I was working with, or the people that were naturally gravitating toward me, had a lot of other challenges at a like deeper level. So I'm talking, gut dysfunction, hormone imbalances, just other things that I thought, okay, first off, when we address those internal health factors, it makes the external transformation a lot easier. And we don't have to fight against that resistance that the body is naturally going to give us because its sole job is to protect us. It doesn't really care what it looks like in a bikini, right? We're the ones who care about that.
Yeah.
And also, as I began or continued on my own health journey, I really, again, I realized how much of the fitness and health side of life is really just, again, it's an avenue for living a life that you want, right? Like, I would see a lot of women who wanted to achieve a certain aesthetic goal, but they wouldn't feel very good in the process. And so I have that conversation with clients a lot, particularly if I have someone who's thinking about competing or somebody who has a really aggressive aesthetic goal. I want to make sure that they understand what it takes to get there and understand that it's not always a fun process. You're not always going to feel energized. You're not always going to feel good. And in the process, you can develop body dysmorphia. You can develop a less than ideal relationship with food. And so I try to manage all of those things when I work with people because at the end of the day, I want them to feel better and have a better quality of life in addition to whatever it is that their goal is. So I just started marketing myself a little bit differently and started really focusing on those internal aspects of health and also what having better health can actually do for you in every area of life, not just, hey, let's get a six pack abs or let's get a big booty. Those things are great. And I still help my clients with those, but I will never help somebody get that goal while compromising all the other things at the same time.
Yeah. I love that. Because although you see it, the magazine models or the fitness competitions and they look great, nobody talks about what it takes to get there and what that's really doing to your body.
Right. Right. And nobody talks about what it's like when you no longer look that way. So as a competitor, that was something that I struggled with, but I saw a lot of other women struggle with even more so than I did is that you get so lean, whether that's, for a competition or for a photo shoot, or maybe, you're just doing it for a phase of life, but then understanding that we go through different seasons of life. You might get pregnant and have a child later, or you're just naturally going through the aging process. There's these different factors that play in. And so I see women get really fixated on the idea of looking a certain way and looking that way forever. And that's really not the reality of life and how our bodies work. And so that's something that I think there's a gap in the industry for sure. And something that I saw through my own experience was people weren't talking about the after effect, right? It's like, okay, you get to this pinnacle point and then that's just kind of where we leave it. Meanwhile, it can take a really hard toll on someone's mental and emotional health when they don't understand that that's probably not going to last forever.
Absolutely. And let's dive in there first, and then we'll talk more about hormones and gut
Okay.
health and all the things. But let's talk emotional and just the belief side in your when you're looking at your body. And I know that plays such a role in it. How do you think, like overall, those your beliefs and uh, sorry, I'm not asking the question very well. How do they affect, like, how do they, one, affect what your body does as far as what it looks like, but also the healing process? Like, if you're healing from something, like your beliefs, tell us a little bit about the mind first, and then we'll jump into the body.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and that's a great way to ask the question. So, when I look at that, I kind of look at it from a twofold perspective. So, obviously, you have the ideology that when I maybe have a mindset or beliefs or thoughts rather that are disempowering. So maybe I think that I'm fat and I don't think I can change and I just have this really fixed mindset. I'm probably not going to show up and do the necessary things that I need to in order to get me to my goal or to get me to a place where I feel, look, and whatever the way that I want to. And so there's that aspect of it, right? Like how when you're sitting there and you have this negative thought pattern or you're telling yourself all of these things that are bringing you down, like do you really feel motivated to go to the gym? Do you really feel empowered to make healthier food choices? No, right? So there's that aspect of it, but then there's also the aspect of we know that our thoughts and emotions actually create biochemical changes in the body. So I like to call that the energetic weight, right? So, like I think we've all been in a circumstance in life where we were dealing with grief, we were dealing with loss, sadness, whatever that is, that maybe less than ideal or negative emotion. And we literally can feel that physical, like energetic weight. We just feel bogged down. Or, you might have a situation in life where you feel happy. Maybe it's a new relationship or you know, a promotion at work or your business hits a new milestone and it's like maybe you weren't sleeping very well, like you're not necessarily doing all the right things, but you're like, you are riding a high. Like you just have so much energy, you feel great. And so we know, and that's the very unscientific way to put it, but we know that thoughts and beliefs and emotions create biochemical effects. And those are just some very basic examples. And so if we're sitting there in that cycle of, having these negative beliefs or these negative thought patterns, whether it's at a conscious or a subconscious level, it is having physiological consequences within the body. And there are a lot of, studies or a lot of theories on like miraculous healing. And in my opinion, and from the research and the work that I have looked into, a lot of that comes back to those thoughts and those belief systems, which is why I think spirituality or religion or the power of community and the power of connecting with individuals can be really beneficial from a healing perspective, whatever that looks like for any individual.
Yeah, I think that's so true. And I think just, for me, probably 10 years ago, I started to realize, like, what are those thoughts that I'm thinking every day? Because I wasn't really paying attention to them. And I'm like, wow, these are really mean and negative, and I need to change this because it just hit me one day. Like, I would never say this to somebody else. I would have no friends, I would have no employees. And why am I being so hard and negative on myself? And so it's been this process to really be like, wait a minute, what are you saying? And how are you saying that to yourself? So I
For
think
sure.
absolutely that's so true and impactful.
Right, right. And it's a journey. And I find that for a lot of my clients, and this was very true for myself as well, the journey of health and well being started out as a physical, and then it kind of morphs into that mental, emotional, maybe even spiritual journey where you're like, wow, like you start to really appreciate everything that your body does for you. I remember sitting in my house one night and I was just reflecting and I like had this epiphany that no matter what I do to my body, maybe I drink a little too much wine, or maybe I don't get enough sleep, or maybe I eat something that I know isn't really contributing to my overall health. And my body is working 365 days, 24/7, my entire life to bring me back into homeostasis, even when I make choices that go against what I know is best for me. And I thought, holy cow, like we talk about unconditional love, unconditional love for yourself, unconditional love for others. And I was like, nobody will ever love me more than my body loves me because it is literally fighting for me and doing all of these things. No matter what I do to it, no matter how I treat it, no matter how I talk about it, it is there and it is like trying to do its best. And I just was like, I like started crying. I was like, holy cow, like, like it was such a, for me, such a powerful shift where I was like, how can I say that? Yeah, like you were saying, how can I say these things about myself, or how can I think these things? Who cares if I can lose 5 pounds? I mean, great. If that's what I want to do, that's what I'm going to do. But, there's so much more that goes into having that relationship with yourself and really appreciating what our bodies do for us on a day to day. And so for me, that was one of the biggest mental or mindset shifts that really took me to a different place in my own health journey.
Yeah. We see that all the time at Orange Theory. It
Yeah.
starts with, the change in the mirror, but it goes so much deeper
Mhm.
than that. Like mindset, just belief systems, everything then changes, which I'd love to see.
Yeah. That's awesome.
One of the things that I was really drawn to in one of your interviews, because I don't think a lot of people are talking about it. And I know this because I've sat with so many people in an Orange Theory office. We've looked at food logs, we've looked at all the things. I see what they're eating, but so many people are just talking about calories in, calories out. So tell me, I know that you believe there are so many other factors. One we just talked about was mental, but tell me the other factors that play into weight loss.
Yeah, absolutely. So again, like if we want to oversimplify or make it very general just for someone's understanding, like yes, you need to be in a calorie deficit or, be expending or burning more calories than you're taking in if you want to achieve fat loss or weight loss. What most people don't realize, though, is that your body works like a thermostat. So, another really good analogy that I heard from another practitioner in the industry, I can't remember who it was, but your body is more like a chemistry lab than a bank account. So, we look at it in the calories in versus calories out model as a bank account, right? Like we're adding in our calories, we're subtracting our calories, just like your deposits and your withdrawals. But in reality, our body is a very complex and dynamic system, and it's going to adapt to whatever inputs and outputs you're giving it because its sole purpose is to keep you safe and to survive. Again, it doesn't really care about having a six pack. It doesn't care if you've got like a big booty. It doesn't really care about swimsuit season. It cares about keeping you alive, keeping you safe, and keeping you protected. And so, what happens a lot of times, especially for women, because we've been bombarded with this eat less and move more. And some people do need to eat less and move more. A lot of women need to eat more. They need to eat more high quality food. They need to recover and rest better. They need to stress less or manage that stress differently and just reduce the overall burden that the body is taking on a day to day basis. And so, what happens when we chronically undereat or when we are over exercising or when we are just not managing our stressors, whether they're external or internal, our thyroid starts to downregulate, our hormones, sex hormones start to downregulate as a protective mechanism, right? Because why would we need to reproduce if our body is signaling that we're in an unsafe environment? That's when metabolism starts to come down. And so that's why you could see an individual who maybe is eating only 12 or 1300 calories and still can't get the scale to budge because it's likely that their metabolism has either downregulated to the point that they no longer need as many calories to kind of quote unquote survive. Therefore, they're going to have to constantly eat less, eat less, eat less. Or there's other levels of dysfunction in the body, whether it's with their gut, with their hormones, et cetera, that is just creating an environment that is not conducive for fat loss. So there's a lot more that goes into it when you actually look at it from a physiological perspective, especially now that we live in a society where most of us are undernourished, even if we're overfed. We're highly stressed out. A lot of us don't sleep very well. We don't sleep enough and we don't get enough quality sleep. Most of us aren't spending enough time in nature. And, there's a lot of disconnect, I think, too, when it comes to connection with community and with other individuals because we live in such, again, like a go, 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 fast paced digital world. And all of that takes a toll on the body. So it starts to um, create more complexities that aren't easily solved with just a calories in versus calories out approach.
Yeah. So, how would you explain like the intersection between hormones and thyroid and gut health, metabolism, mindset, in really a woman's ability to reach where she looks and feels her best?
Mhm. Yes. So a simplified answer. And the thing that it's the thing I imagine this graph in my head. The first and foremost, what I think people should understand is that everything is interconnected. So if you are truly having challenges, losing weight or losing fat, I'm not saying it's your hormones. I'm not saying it's your thyroid. I'm not saying it's your gut, but I'm not saying that that isn't playing into it. And so again, the body is interconnected. And when we have dysfunction in one system, it's likely going to affect or start to present in other symptoms or other systems as well at some point in time. And so, we look at things like, gut health, for instance, has been a really hot topic the last couple of years, and rightfully so. A lot of people have internal inflammation that is a result of gut dysfunction, whether that's, intestinal permeability or leaky gut, is kind of the street term for it. When we have gut dysfunction, we don't detox our hormones as well. We don't convert thyroid hormone to the degree that is ideal. We also look at, the exposure of our bodies to toxins in the environment through our food, through our water, through our personal care products. And so then we have, the question of how much toxic burden are we carrying? How much is our liver having to process? Because your liver also directly converts thyroid hormone as well. It also filters out and helps detoxify excess sex hormone. So when you have somebody, let's say, that has estrogen dominance, it's really hard to lose body fat when you have excess estrogen recirculating through the system. So if we have gut dysfunction or we have just an overall high toxic load that our body's not able to process out, we're not getting rid of those things properly, and we're creating an excess of things that are not conducive to fat loss. And so that is why I find with my clients in particular, if we can address, the internal dysfunction, be it gut health, and that's usually one of the places that we'll start. A lot of people want to talk about sex hormones, which is great, but those are oftentimes just like a downstream result of other things. So blood sugar imbalance can have an effect on sex hormones. Um, Suboptimal thyroid function or hypothyroidism that can have a like bidirectional interplay with sex hormones. Again, gut dysfunction can kind of affect that as well. And so when we're able to look at the body more holistically and address some of those challenges and just bring the body back into balance, because the body doesn't want to be overweight. It doesn't want to hold on to that fat. But when we are in an unsafe environment internally, or we're not giving the body the things that it needs, it's going to do that for protection. And so when we can come back to homeostasis and address some of those issues, I find that weight loss or fat loss happens a lot easier and people feel better in the process, which is the most important thing.
Absolutely. Today, I'm sharing with you my favorite products for gut health. I put links in the show notes below with savings for up to 40%. Over the past 6 months, I've really focused on gut health. It started to help my son Christopher with his stomach, and I've started to take the products as well. And what I noticed is I slept better, had less brain fog, more energy, and I wanted to pass these things on to you because if we look at health overall, it really begins in the gut. And how would you know, let's say, for gut health or
Mhm.
thyroid, is it a lab test or how are you testing these different areas?
So it depends. I do functional lab testing with clients. So we'll do blood work analysis, and then we have access to things like GI maps, which is a stool test that can kind of give you an indication of what is going on with the microbiome. Now, the microbiome and gut health in general is still a very new topic from a research perspective. So there is some variability there and some, level or margin of error. But it can still give you a good indication of, some areas that you might need to address at a deeper level. We have Dutch testing, which is a dried urine test for hormones. It's a little bit, in my opinion, a little bit better than blood testing, only because it also shows you how you metabolize and detoxify certain hormones. And so there's various different options. When I work with clients, I love to have the data because the more data we have, typically the better informed, we can make our protocols. But I don't require it because it also has to be something with clients that's feasible from a financial perspective, from a time perspective, things like that. And so what I will do is I have like a gut health questionnaire. I have a couple different assessments that I will take someone through. And if I think that they have a lot of dysfunction going on, or if they just are presenting with a ton of symptoms and maybe we're not able to get those symptoms managed within the first 3 or 4 months, I will revisit that conversation and say, yes, let's get a thyroid panel done. That would be done through your blood test. Oftentimes doctors will do that as well. They don't always like to run a full thyroid panel though. So that's where you kind of get that push and pull between the more functional side of things and what Western medicine will typically do. And, we might look at our metabolic panel, our blood count, things like that to just see, okay, is there something that looks like it's presenting at a deeper level? So there are definitely ways that you can test all of those things. But I think for a lot of people, just recognizing the symptoms that they're experiencing, and if you're working with a practitioner, they should be able to help you at least address that at a foundational level and then go deeper if needed.
Yeah. I love that. I'm a data person too. So any of the data I have, I've done tons of testing on myself. But one of the things, I think you're right, gut health was brand new. And I got into it because my son was really sick. But what I noticed was when I started paying attention to my own gut health, my sleep significantly improved. And I had tried a lot of things to get it to improve. And I wear an aura ring and I just couldn't get into deep sleep. I was really struggling. And so over the course of, gosh, just probably a couple months working on that, the data significantly increased. And I was like, wow, I feel better and I'm sleeping better. The two probably go hand in hand, but
Right.
it was something just really cool to see.
Oh, absolutely. I can tell you too on my own journey for myself, I lost probably about 10 pounds solely from working on just my gut dysfunction. It wasn't eating less, it wasn't necessarily changing my diet drastically, it wasn't increasing my workout frequency or intensity. It was just purely working on my digestion and getting to a point where that inflammation was coming down and I was actually again digesting and then absorbing my nutrients because I think there's also a lot of people don't realize that you can eat the healthiest food in the world, but if you can't digest it properly and break it down so your body actually uses it, you can still be deficient in nutrients and that can still present again as, slower thyroid, hypothyroidism, issues with hormones, other things. So digestion is really, really, really important in the scope of gut health. And once you can start to optimize that, I think, you can start to see those other areas improve as well.
I know it probably depends on the person and it's a really broad area, but are there one or two tips that if somebody's listening thinking, I don't even know where to start with that you could give us?
Yes, 100%. I actually love this because I have an Instagram post that's about to go out next week on this. You'll see a lot of people that are like probiotics, kombucha, and those things are fine and great. But let me tell you, I have done some complex gut protocols with people and we've made a lot of progress. And if they're not doing the basics, nothing, no matter how advanced you get, it does not matter. So, chewing your food thoroughly, first one, slowing down, like taking a couple deep breaths before you eat, trying to get as parasympathetic as possible, like trying to refrain from eating while you are driving and cursing out the car in front of you or while you're like cursing out your coworker from behind your computer screen because you're working through your lunch break, whatever it is. Clearly I curse a lot, obviously. It's just only examples that come to mind. But really trying to get into that calm parasympathetic state before you eat is going to be a lot better for digestion. Yes, chewing your food thoroughly, trying to eat as slowly and mindfully as possible. And just having more awareness around, the eating process. Like I tell clients this all the time, particularly ones who will just kind of eat and they're distracted. Like digestion doesn't start. Everybody will say, "Oh, digestion starts in the mouth." Like when I ask people that, they're so excited. They're like, "It starts in the mouth." I'm like, "No, it starts in the mind." Because think of how many times at nighttime you're sitting on your couch, maybe watching TV, and you see like a commercial of, like a big cheeseburger at a place that you probably never eat, but like you start looking at it and you start salivating. You're like, okay, that kind of looks good. Like just the visual of that and the thought process starts to trigger saliva, which has enzymes in it that help you to break down your food. So even just thinking about your food, looking at your food, being present with it can really help the body with the digestion process. And then the last one I would say is taking like a short 5 to 10 minute, just very like leisurely walk afterward can help with digestion. And it's also really beneficial for blood sugar as well.
Yeah. That was one of the things I noticed a lot. I wore a glucose monitor for several months. Just I
Mhm.
everything on myself.
Yeah.
And I was amazed at walking around my block after a meal, what it did to your blood sugar and how much it brought it down.
Yep. It's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, so good. Um, what do you think? What I know there's a lot, but if you're thinking about that list above where we talked about hormones, thyroid, gut health, metabolism, and you're thinking, do you see one in particular that women struggle with, or is it different for everyone?
That's a great question. I think it's different for everyone. However, I think that we all deal with a lot of the same triggers and challenges, perhaps, and it manifests a little bit differently in the body. I think there's a lot of women out there that have, some level of gut dysfunction, maybe some level of hormone imbalance. But I think that varies and differs from person to person. But I think a lot of, where this is being triggered from or what's causing it is very much the same for many of us, right? Like when people are like, what is one thing you would tell people to work on? I'm like, honestly, stress. It's not sexy. Nobody wants to deal with it. It's hard to get out of, especially when, you're a type A or driven individual and maybe you're a mom, you're a career woman, like you have all of these things that you're trying to take care of, which is great. And we know that stress is like one of the leading drivers of whether it's actual like disease or just getting to the point where the body is no longer in balance. So whether, again, whether that's making sure your nutrition is on point, making sure you're eating the proper amounts and the proper nutrients to actually support your body through all of the things that you have going on. Maybe it's taking an extra 30 minutes to sleep. Not everybody, I love meditation, but not everybody is going to meditate like a monk. And that's okay. There's other ways that we can support our body to either help mitigate stress or help make us more resilient when the stress is inevitable and we have to deal with it.
Yeah. I think that's so good. And honestly, at a personal level, this one is challenging me because I feel like I have a lot of, I know I do, of stress of running businesses, doing podcasts, being a mom, all the things. But yeah, I feel it taking a toll on my body. And I'm a good eater, I'm a good sleeper, I work out. So all of the basics are in check for me, but yet my body is still given me some issues sometimes. And so I'm like, Annie, we got to work on the stress level. And so this year, 2024, has been my year to really work on that and dial it in to say, how can we lower this?
Right. I love that. And I can tell you I find myself in the same place even with the awareness. It's still a practice. And I think another thing too for people is sometimes even just shifting our perception of stress. So I've been really guilty of perpetuating that thought process or that cycle of I am so stressed. I have so much to do. And I've had to bring myself back to a place where I can reframe that and look at it as more of a positive and not something that feels daunting and like all of these things. It's like, wow, I get to do these things. I'm choosing to do these things. This is fun for me, even when it's challenging. And so I think too, it's very important to support our physical body through, what we've been talking about, but then also changing our perception of our current reality of what we're dealing with can be helpful too in the interim while we kind of navigate, what does that really mean? And to reduce some of the stress, like how does one actually go about that?
Yeah. I think you're right, though. What you say to yourself matters a lot because there are days when I'm like, oh my gosh, how am I going to get all this done? And then I'm like, Annie, you get to do this. Of just changing that a little bit changes so much of what happens in the day.
Right. Absolutely.
I love that. I know that you see people do a lot of different approaches. I'm curious to what you recommend, but there's so many diets out there like keto, low fat, vegan, intermittent fasting, high protein, all of the things. What would you say for people that are asking, like, okay, but I know I should do like solid nutrition, but
Mhm.
what is that?
Yeah, that's a great question. Um, and it's such an unsexy answer because the industry is so plagued with like, again, these like, this is the one way to do it because that sells, that's a headliner and that gets people like, wait, what? It is? And so really the truth and what I believe to be the truth and what I've seen is it's so individual for everybody. I could make a use case for and against every single dietary theory that's out there because it's so dependent on the person where their physiology is at currently, what is their goal. There's an appropriate time and place for almost every single approach, just depending on what it is that we're dealing with. That being said, I think for everybody who is listening and for everybody in our society, I think we can all benefit from just increasing our micronutrients. So again, our fruits, our veggies, our lean proteins, our wild caught fish, our high quality fats, be it avocados, olive oil, coconut oil, nuts, seeds, things like that. So really just focusing on micronutrients, I think for a lot of us, even when our calories and our macronutrients are in check, again, a lot of us have some level of deficiency at a micronutrient level. Maybe it's because our digestion isn't quite optimal. Perhaps it's because, soil degradation and long transport times from the farm to the table reduces the nutrient profile of foods. There's so many different reasons why we might not be getting the nutrients. So really focusing on the micronutrient composition of the foods. And one thing I tell my clients, I challenge them every day. I'm like, eat the rainbow. Like try to eat at least one thing from every single color because then we know we're getting a wide variety of micronutrients. So I think everybody could benefit from that. I don't think I've ever never read a research study that said, somebody died or somebody, developed a disease because they ate too many whole foods and they were overloaded on micronutrients. Like that can happen supplementally in rare cases, but the body typically knows what to do with those things. And so I think for most people focusing on that and then also just focusing on reducing overall inflammation and again, you have your anti-inflammatory diets. The Mediterranean diet is one of probably the most widely researched diet to help reduce inflammation. But I find that that's going to be a little more individual depending on the person. So I personally don't tolerate gluten and dairy very well. I've done a lot of work on my gut. I can tolerate it in small doses, but I just don't have any interest now because I know I don't feel good with it. Now, that being said, there are other people who do tolerate those things better. So just paying attention to how you feel when you eat foods and not being afraid to remove them for a week or two and then reintroduce it and see how you feel. I do that a lot with clients just to kind of gauge what they're actually sensitive to. And I can tell you, like, I don't think I've ever had a client that we did some sort of elimination diet and reintroduction, and there wasn't like one thing that they were like, yeah, I don't really feel that great now when I eat this. I felt a lot better without it. And that's typically an indication that we just have more work to do in the gut with the goal of always reintroducing that food if possible. So really just starting to pay attention to how you feel. I think a lot of people are very disconnected from their body. And so, when I ask somebody, how do you feel when you eat this? They're like, I don't really know. Never really thought about it. It tastes good, but I don't know. Maybe I'm really tired after. Maybe I do have some gas or some bloating or indigestion. So again, just kind of turning that. We want to look externally for every single answer. Like that's I think what the industry has perpetuated, unfortunately. And so I always encourage clients to turn that focus back inward because I can tell you the pros and cons of every dietary theory, but I can't tell you what your lived experience is, and that to me is more valid than what a textbook says about a certain style of eating.
Agree. I think there's a lot of we just want this quick, fast answer. And sometimes it takes some testing on ourselves to say, just like you said, how do I feel? I just did that same thing. I took
Yeah,
out gluten and dairy to say, how do I feel without them? Just wondering. And introduce them back in. And it's okay. I'm probably like you, where I'm not intolerant, but I feel better off of them.
mhm.
There's something I really want that has it in there of like, one day I want a piece of cake. I'm gonna have the piece of cake
There you
because
go.
like, what's gonna be okay.
Right.
But taking that time to really dive into how do I feel on these things?
For sure. And I think it's so powerful too, because, again, like you said, it's great to say, I probably do better without this most of the time, but when I do choose to do it, I'm making an informed decision. And I think when people can make a decision and really own that, they become empowered in that decision. So like I always tell clients, like, I'm not telling you you can't ever have this. I just want you to understand how you feel and then make a decision accordingly. And if you still choose to go that route, amazing. Like we know we can own it, we can move forward and understand what we're experiencing and navigate from there.
Absolutely. I love Eat the Rainbow too, because I think so many times, I know I'm guilty of this. You get stuck on even if you're eating healthy, you're saying fruits and
Yes.
vegetables. And it's like, oh, let's do like a little variety out
Yeah.
there. So it's helped me increase, like, okay, I'm going to try this. Maybe I even eat red peppers most of the time. I'm going to eat yellow and orange. Or I'm gonna do something else to just add in a new veggie to
Yeah.
see because I know it's good for my gut microbiome.
Love that. Yeah. And actually, there's a lot of research that shows diversity is really helpful for the microbiome as well. Whether that's diversity in, the actual foods you're eating or the styles that you're eating. Like, cycling through like a short-term lower carb phase and then going into something that's more balanced, maybe something that's a little carb heavier. Now, that being said, it's, your more complex carbs, things that are going to also support blood sugar and making sure we're still eating a balanced meal. But yeah, there's been some research I've seen that shows that just diversity in different types of foods, but also different eating styles, and not just sticking to the exact same way, the entire time, can be very beneficial for cultivating a more diverse microbiome.
I love that. I haven't
Yeah.
heard yet. So
Yeah.
good. Um, Tell me a little bit about just advice for a woman if she really felt stuck, thinking, you know what, I she's doing all of the in her mind the right things, and she's just stuck, but she's not seeing results. What advice would you have?
I would say it's to first and foremost, I think to a lot of women, again, like we are constantly seeking the answers externally. And yes, like it is very beneficial to have support externally, whether that's through a coach or through a practitioner that is going to be able to guide you and give you the tools and the strategy and the support to get you to that goal. But I think like we're in such a fast-paced world that I always encourage people, and I've started this practice myself. It's been so helpful to just pause, like pause for a second and like evaluate what's going on, be it physically, mentally, emotionally. And then, try to just identify where that gap is or what the gap is that is you're experiencing from where you are to where you want to be. And then seek support from somebody that you feel can help you. And I think one of the most important things, and this is why I do discovery calls or consultation calls before I ever actually sign a client on, because I want to make sure first and foremost that I can help them. But it has to be the right vibe or the right energy. So I think particularly when we're talking about health, it's a very vulnerable and very personal thing for most of us. And so I think when you're working with a practitioner, yes, making sure they have the credentials or the knowledge or the experience that you feel comfortable with, that they can actually guide you to that endpoint. But also, are they going to make you feel supported? Are they going to hold space for you? Are they going to give you the experience that you desire? Because again, like healing is a lot more than just here's your protocol, come back in a month, which is why I think our current medical system, really does not help people achieve, overall or long lasting wellness, because it's a very cold, cut and dry model. And a lot of people need that support. They need that space. And so I think, you know, trying to find a practitioner and being choosy, feeling a couple people out, maybe doing your research, maybe not jumping into working with somebody because, it's kind of an impulsive, like, I just don't want to feel this way anymore. I'm just going to work with this person. Like really get a sense of like, do you feel like they're the right person for you? Because I can tell you I'm not the right person for everybody. I've had some amazing clients that I was like, this is not a good fit for you or for me.
Yeah.
And so making sure that the person that you are working with and seeking support from is, somebody that you resonate with and somebody that you feel safe with, I think at the end of the day.
I think that's so important because you're right. It is such a vulnerable area. When somebody will trust us with their health or with what they're dealing with, that's really important that you do connect with that person.
Right. Right.
Tell us a little bit about how to connect with you and your practice, because I'm guessing some people are listening thinking, I really like her. I like Allie. I want to connect with her and see if this would be a good fit. How would they?
Absolutely. I would love that. So I am most active on Instagram when it comes to social platforms. My handle is at Allie Cass Health. And then you can also visit my website, www.alliecasshealth.com. You can read a little bit more about me, my story, my experience, my program. And if you would like to connect, whether that's through booking a consultation call, which is no obligation, or just connecting on social media, this is just connecting with individuals in the industry and being able to help and kind of spread the knowledge and spread the passion is what I love. And so I'd love to connect with you.
Awesome. I love that. Any last minute advice or words of wisdom that you would like to give us?
Yes. So I kind of touched on this a little bit earlier, but I think this is really important, especially the way that the health model is now and kind of where the industry has gone. But again, for women or people in general who are listening to this, just understand that you might not be the expert in fitness, you might not be the expert in nutrition, you might not be the expert in health, but you are the expert on your body. And I think, for people, one of the things that I really strive with clients and individuals is to just help them become their own advocate when it comes to their health. And so again, like your doctor might know more about XYZ than you. I might know more about XYZ than you, but nobody knows your lived experience better than you do. And that is very valuable when it comes to figuring out what the best approach is for you. So, always listen to yourself. If your little intuition, like deep down, is telling you that, no, I know something is going on, even though my doctor is telling me that, oh, my labs look fine. Listen to that. Listen to that gut. Get a second opinion. Get maybe help from someone who's more on the alternative side or the holistic side of things, and just listen to that because I think it's really important that we all advocate for ourselves in the current system that we're in.
Yeah, so important. I love that advice. Thank you so much for being on the Be the Person podcast. There's so much knowledge and wisdom. I just appreciate you sharing that with us today.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me.
Well, thank you to our audience for tuning in. If this resonated with you and you know somebody that could benefit from it, please share it. And always, it would mean the world to me if you would give us a 5-star review. Thanks so much for joining Be the Person podcast.